Okay, cool. All right, well, Nitty, I guess Billy Frampton comes into the side. Is it to have a better look at him as the defender after after how he went at Sandford level?
Yeah, it's a bit of, well, there's more than just that, but definitely it's something we want to look at over, I guess, the remaining part of this season. He performed really well at SANFL level last week. Last time he played at AFL level, he'd be the first to admit he wasn't really getting it done ahead of the ball. We looked at that last quarter in the Essendon game where he showed a little bit behind the footy, and it's something we're going to look at moving forward. Really pleased with the way he went about it last week at an SANFL level, and we understand that. It's a huge step up to go to AFL level and perform the same way. But we want to pick our side on what we believe will give us the best chance to win the game of footy, whilst at the same time having a look at what is it that we're looking at for medium, for longer term. So Billy's in some good form at the moment, and deserves his spot.
Damien, anything else, mate?
I guess from me, where does that leave Fischer McAsey at the moment? I know they swapped over in the Sandford, but do you want to look at him again at AFL level this year?
Oh, look, we'd love to. I mean, Fischer went forward at SANFL last week, played reasonably well, attacked the footy. He's shown throughout his junior career that he can play forward of the footy, and he's played some really good football there. We had a look at that last year, if you remember. Fish went forward at times. I guess the tough thing at the moment for Fischer is we went inside 50 in that Sandford game about 20 odd times, and North Adelaide were too good for us on the day, so we gave him a limited opportunity to show what he's got. We'll continue to look at him forward as the season plays out, because with him we're looking very much on a longer term growth plan for him. He's shown some really good stuff down back at SANFL level as far as his craft goes and his ability to defend. What we're doing now is releasing him, see if we can find a little bit, another string to his bow or another weapon that we may be able to go to in future years. By no means were we disappointed with his performance. We thought he played well on the weekend. So the decision around Billy was Billy's form. Love to have a look at him at the level. Fischer may be someone we look at over the coming weeks forward of the ball, depending on how our forward line compete, I guess, this weekend and in the coming weeks.
What's what's going to happen with the reserve players? They're playing on Sunday with Richmond and Geelong, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We're able to organise a game with the two footy clubs and ourselves, which is a real bonus for us because our guys can now go out Sunday at Punt Road and get a good hit out, and it's really important that those guys are able to play football and keep their bodies ticking over, keep themselves at the level, show that they're ready to play. It's an unusual situation. They'll be wearing another club's jumper. They'll be playing alongside Geelong players and Richmond players, but that's where we're at the moment. That's where footy is. We're doing everything we can to keep community safe, to continue playing games of football. And so for us, we're really appreciative of the two sides for allowing us to join in. And I think the same from them. From a numbers point of view, a lot of sides in the AFL at the moment are going to need some extra top-up players to complete these games. So it'll be good for our young group. It'll be good for them to get a hit out and then still have their name ready for selection the week after.
Just one more from me. With that, how much control do you have over, for example, the minutes that Matt Crouch might play in it, or the position that Fischer McAsey might play, or like a Benny Davis, you've been playing him down back. How much control do you have in that scenario?
We'll have control as we work with the other clubs around what players, I guess, prioritise positional wise. Who's going to get that game time on ball. Obviously, they've got some players too that they're looking to bring through and play at the level. But so far, we've worked really well with the clubs around what we're going to do and how we structure this game of footy. And we're confident that the players that we're after in certain spots will get the time they need in those spots and be able to show what they've got.
Jace, Kemp, do you want to jump on, mate?
Sure, mate. Hey, Nixie. Jimmy Rowe was an obvious omission. What's he sort of got to do to make sure he gets back in that squad?
Yeah, I talked about it briefly yesterday. Jimmy and I caught up and sat down, and it's been a long year for Rowe, he's coming off a grand final. Sorry, guys, I'm getting feedback here from you.
Yeah.
On a mute. Sorry, Jace. Just with regard to Jimmy Rowe, his form hasn't been quite where he's wanted it to be, and we've sat down a number of times over the last month and just try to work through what it is we can do for him. Some of it is off our ball movement, not giving him as many opportunities, but for him at the moment, it's about maybe giving him a little bit of a spell, a little bit of a circuit breaker. He wants to play in the game on Sunday, so we'll give him that opportunity just to go and free his mind up and see if we can get back to what we saw definitely at a finals or during the finals of SANFL last year. He was so influential in those. We'd love for him to free himself up and just go back and play with that freedom. But it's been a long year for him. He comes off a grand final, so he's played right through at SANFL level before being drafted. He then went to work to get drafted as a slightly more mature age player. And he's played every game for us this year. He's had some really strong games. Probably the last month hasn't been to the level where we've decided not to go with him this week. But I'm sure he'll go back, play with some freedom, and hopefully we get him back in sooner than later.
How close were you to calling Matt Crouch back into the side?
Not for this weekend, we weren't. And look, it's more from a preparation point of view. The last thing we want with Matty is for us to go too fast, to go too hard at getting him back into the AFL level. He needs that next hit out. He needs to progress. Last week was limited game time against North Adelaide. He's pulled up, from that game with some general soreness, which is natural. It's the first hit out he's had for a while. We'll have a look at that over the coming days, and we'd love to get him in again to this game on Sunday if he's feeling up to it. But it's one of those things that we're not going to push it too hard, and we're not going to throw him in the deep end and put him in at AFL level and really test it out and go too far too early. So Matty's on board with that. It's frustrating, as every player. They're competitive. They just want to get back and play footy. He wants to come and play. He wants to get in that AFL side. But at this point in time, it's 1 week, another extra week, at the lower level would benefit him. And then when he eventually gets in, he's ready to go and can see out a full game.
With Jimmy Rowe out and then you've got Darcy on the bench, how much are you tinkering with that forward line still? Obviously, Riley's named as an emergency too. So it seems like this late in the season, you're still tinkering with the best forward line mix.
Yeah, we are. We're still having a look at the group and what connects us up best. And it's not only that forward line. It's I know that seems to be the focus at the moment, and that comes when we're not kicking goals. Who is going to put the ball between the two sticks for us? That's the question that everyone's trying to find at the moment. But there's more to it than that. There's the way we move the footy. There's the way we defend our front half. The last couple of weeks, our form's been a little bit off. We're first to admit that. We haven't played the footy that we'd like to play. We're working on that. We trained really well Wednesday night on the MCG. It was great to get our group out there. We had around 8 players who've never stepped on the MCG. So it gives you an idea of where our group's at from a building point of view, from a developing point of view. We are a young group. Nothing's locked in at this point. We are working through what is our best 22. And obviously the squad becomes really important in that. And that's where, some of the changes will come.
I'll hand pass it over to someone else.
Thanks, mate.
Josh Money.
Hey, Nixie, what do you put that drop off in competitiveness down to in the past, probably cut 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, it comes across on the screen as competitive. That it looks like there's not as, I'd say, in the TV screen, it comes across as a bit of effort. But some of it's fatigue, some of it's a long year when you have younger players, but some of it is us going away from what we did really well early in the season. A lot of people do, put comparisons into the way we performed round 1 v Geelong, and we were a really aggressive side. We went at Geelong. We did the same when we played Melbourne. We did the same in a number of other games throughout the year. And you'd say the trend for us this year has been that we compete and we never give up. Now, the last couple of weeks we've just gone away from that, and they can be really small areas of your game that make it look like you're not in the fight. So we train that. As I said, we train really well on Wednesday night. We pushed the guys through. We've done a lot of education around what it is that brings back that DNA that we want to have. Now, the challenge that comes with that is the young group. We've also had a week where we travel interstate. I see it as a real positive for our group. It's kept us together. We've stuck tight. A new experience for a lot of these guys. As I said before, getting on the MCG is something that you can't take for granted. You don't get many opportunities during the season when you're in a state club. Sometimes 1 or 2 games, but to be able to train out there, we're going to be much better for it in the long term.
Opposition small forwards have had a fair amount of joy against you probably in the last month. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, I guess when you're having sort of 50, 60 inside 50s against and you're not doing the same yourselves, it does put your backs under a fair bit of pressure. And the ball going, backing out multiple times in and out of your back 50, it's a tough gig for that back six, for that backs group. And when you look at our backs group, we are young. We're not an experienced group from a games played point of view, so they are continuing to learn. We talk about, we win games of footy and we learn from games of footy. Again, it'd be nice for us to get the game back on our terms a little more and pressure the opposition small backs, put them under a little bit of heat. At the moment, we're not quite in that space, and it's been over the last 2 weeks. And we're pretty confident that we can turn that around. We're training it. We've now got to bring it on Saturday night against Hawthorn. It's important that we're in the right frame of mind and we get the small things done right so that we get the game on our terms.
Given the way, as you mentioned, you've been able to challenge and really take the game to teams like Geelong and Melbourne earlier in the year, obviously it's a holistic approach for you as a group, but how disappointing would it be if you were, after all the progress you've made this year, to finish at the bottom of the ladder once again?
Oh, for us, we look at this weekend's game and we look at turning the form around that we're in. And as I said, two weeks, we talk about 1 week, you can say, well, that's an anomaly. It's not the way we've performed all year. Well, unfortunately, we came out for a half against West Coast, thought the guys played really well, and then we dropped away in the second half. Had a good look through that. From this point on, for us, the focus is now we take this weekend and we try to get the game. We play 4 quarters of footy. You walk off the ground, you feel proud about the way you went about it. Results look after themselves, and that's the focus we've got as a group. We know what it means to our members and supporters, and we know that they'll all be watching. There's a lot of people that are doing it pretty tough at the moment, so there'll be people sitting in their homes watching a game of footy, and they want to see us perform. They want to turn that TV off after the game finishes and be proud of what they've seen. Well, that's our goal. And I have no doubt if we play the way we know we can play at the level, results will look after themselves.
Riley was managed last week and an emergency this week. Is he just an example of a young guy who is feeling a bit sore and a bit battered around after his first season of AFL footy? Where's he at?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. Riley's had a big year. Played 11 games as a first-year player. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around what he's going to be, a lot of hype around what he's done, when he comes in and kicks 5 on debut. So there's a fair bit of pressure that comes with that as well from a mental point of view. And then there's the physical side, as you said. It's a long year for guys who come into their first year. We felt after, we rested him for a week, we were looking at 1 to 2 possibly. There was a chance that he could play this week. In the end, the work that we've been able to get into to Riley specifically, and James Riley's done some fantastic stuff over the last couple of weeks. Just around some key areas of his game, we feel it's going to benefit him in that medium-term, long-term view. And we've been really pleased with his attitude, the way he's gone about it. We'd love to get him back in, though, before the season's out, and that may be something we look at into next week. Obviously, it'll be off the back of performances and how our group go this weekend.
How encouraged have you been by Harry Schoenberg's last couple of weeks? I feel like he's been a real standout.
I'm glad you enjoyed the way he's playing, because he's really nailed his last few weeks. We gave him a specific role 2 weeks ago. He played that fantastically. I think he took something out of that. He added another area to his game, another weapon to what he can do. We know what he can do with the ball. He's a very smart footballer. And what he's worked on the last few weeks is adding more to that game. A little bit of off-ball stuff, a bit more accountability about how he goes about it. And, he'll continue to grow. But it is good to see that, people from outside the four walls can see an improvement in him without actually knowing the exact role that he's been taking. So, look, I know he's going to be a great footballer going forward, and we're now trying to build him and make him a complete footballer. And
just maybe one more from me. Where's Jackson Haitley at?
Yeah, Jacko was a little bit sore this week, pulled up a bit sore from the Sanford game. Had a reasonable hit out. So he had an opportunity in the bye where we were able to get a little bit of rest into him, freshen him up a bit. He's had a little bit of soreness, in around his hips and groins throughout this year. He knows during the break it's going to be really important for him to go to work and build his core and work in around that area. Because it's incredible what a little bit of soreness around that groin area can do for, you're doing everything you can to go at 100% and your movement's just not quite where it needs to be to play at the high level. So we've been really pleased with what he's brought to the group. He's been an incredible leader off field. He trains as hard as any. But this off-season is going to be super important for him because he's just got to make sure he gets his body right and then he can give it 100% at AFL.
Cool, thank you.
Just with Harry, I guess he's had a bit more of a shift into the midfield. Do you look at some other young players and give them a bit of a go in another position in the last 5 games of the season?
Yeah, we will. I mean, we're looking at a number of different things, and we've made some small changes in games, which sometimes can go unnoticed. But it's not just some of these younger guys. Well, Sam Berry is one that we would love to get around the footy a little bit more. And as the year plays out, Rory Lance had a fantastic season. Like every midfielder at this time of the year, if you played every game and you played almost 100% of your footy on ball, it does become quite a long year, and you become a little bit, beaten up and bruised. So we will look over the coming weeks. It won't necessarily be a complete swap, but we might give Laddie a little bit of time forward of the ball. We'll definitely get Sam Berry on ball and let him, unleash him a little bit, let him go to work inside. It may be some stuff we do also with some of our halfbacks where we have a look. We're really pleased at the moment with Chase Jones's, progress, the path that he's on. He's showing some really strong attributes across halfback with change of pace, really clean with the footy. He'll continue to improve. So they're the sort of things we're looking at. We're going out every week to win the game of footy. Don't doubt us on that. Everything we do is about trying to put our best side out there to win. And sometimes that might be unearthing something like Sam Berry on ball that people are really proud to watch and they enjoy watching.
Just one more from me. How's Tariq Newchurch tracking? Yeah, I guess, is he in the mix maybe to get a game at some point this year, or?
Yeah, Tariq's he's got a fair bit of work still to go, but Tariq's got some weapons. He's obviously elite speed. There's a fair bit that we're working on with him at the moment about reading the game. When to go, where to position yourself and control shape for us. As far as being close to selection, his name's been thrown around a little bit. The last thing you want to do with some of these young guys is throw them in the deep end. So I'd say for Tariq, it's going to be a push for him to get his name up there in this last 5 weeks. But at the same time, like we've done with Harry Schoenberg, we've worked on a number of things with him and give him specific roles. He played a fantastic role down at Victor Harbour, and that got him right into the game, ended up kicking 3 goals in that second half. So he's learning. He's adding some stuff to his game, and we're really pleased with how he's coming along.
Nixie,
sorry. Channel 7.
Nice. Hey, Nixie, there's only one case in Adelaide today. Have you been given any indication by the AFL or by anyone at the government that you might be able to return home anytime soon?
No, we haven't. Look, at this point in time, we're heads down going to work over here, and we're doing whatever we can to stay safe. Melbourne obviously have their own cases. We're keeping a really close eye on Adelaide, and mainly because a lot of our loved ones are back there. And, we feel for the community that's back in Adelaide. But no, there's no dialogue. I haven't had dialogue with the AFL at this point. I'm sure the AFL have had with our CEO and our head of footy, and in Adam Kelly. But at this point, we're locked in to play on the weekend, and then we reassess again. There's a little bit of talk about us maybe possibly playing next Saturday, but as far as I'm aware, nothing's been locked in. And that game next Saturday, as far as we're aware, will be in Melbourne. And there's challenges around us coming back into Adelaide. We don't want to put the community at risk. And I believe at this point we'd have a 14-day isolation or quarantine period, so that would be quite a challenge.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, can I just clarify something with Billy? Are you going to use him as a lockdown defender, or given his prowess, I watched that game at North Adelaide, his intercept marking was awesome. Is he a sort of a do-day backup?
We're working on him at the moment to play as not so much a lockdown defender. I think, what we're seeing from Billy is incredible craft as a back, considering he's played, all of his career as a forward. Often what you find with that is he knows what a forward wants. And so he's able to read the ball. And on the weekend, he didn't play as a drop-off. He played, one-on-one. We played six backs against the North Adelaide's forwards. He won his own ball at times in a contested situation. It's a massive step up for Bill, but we want to give him that opportunity. We feel he deserves it off of the performance he put out there on the weekend. And we feel it's going to help us perform well on, this weekend. But by no means will he be a spare behind the ball. That's not how we're going in. So to answer your question, he'll play as we do a normal defender. He'll also have Tom Duday alongside him, who we know that's Tom's game, his ability to come off and intercept and help his teammates out.
You mentioned Chase before, and then whenever everyone mentions Chase, you sort of think of Ned as well, and maybe a little bit of Das and the future of the club. Like, where do you see your list profile at the moment if you take results out of it?
Yeah, look, I'm really pleased with the guys that you mentioned. You talk about Darcy Fogarty, and we hear the frustration and we hear the noise from outside about where Darcy's at. He's working on his game. There's a lot of areas of Darcy's game that he has to improve, and that's open dialogue that he's happy to have. We continue to work with him, and a lot of it is about his off-ball patterns and how can we inject him into the game a little more, because when he is in the TV screen, Darcy Fogarty is a very, very good player. He's powerful, he's got speed, he's got very good skills and good ball use. So we're working with him in and around that. We're doing a fair bit of work, but couldn't be more pleased to have him on our list. Similar with Ned McHenry, he's young, he's an enthusiastic young player who wants to get the footy, and unfortunately you can't get the footy every second of a game. So Ned's working on something slightly different to what Darcy is. But from a list point of view, we're really pleased with some of these guys and the way they're coming along. At this point, it's not giving us results on field, not giving us the wins that we're after. But you're never that far away. I've got no doubt these guys, as they continue to improve, we begin to connect up as a group and get our game plan at the level where we're consistent in it. You're going to see some improvement from a lot of these young guys coming through.
Last one from me. Did you see enough from Tom Lynch in his first game back to know that he's probably worthy of another year playing rather than coaching?
Yeah, well, look, I thought he had an outstanding game. Considering it's his first one back, he definitely helped us with our ball movement and on-field leadership, and that's a decision we're going to have to look at, over the coming months. Again, a lot of open dialogue with Tom around the future of the footy club, what it looks like, and it'll be a balanced discussion when we do come to that decision. It'll be what experience we need around this young group to help develop. We want to fast track our rebuild. We want this group to come along quick, and we're looking for improvement. But at the same time, we don't want to rush that. We don't want to make any silly decisions around that. So Tom's an important part of what we're doing off field, on field. I can't tell you what it's going to look like next year, and he and I have spoken through all of that. Whether that comes as maybe a role in coaching, he's really keen to get into that, or whether it's as a player. That will depend on where our list finishes, what our draft hand looks like.
Does he want to play next year?
Sorry, Theo?
Does he want to play next year?
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah, I mean, Tom at the moment is putting his best foot forward. He's playing the best footy he can. He's doing everything he can for the team. He wants to be an important part of what we're doing, for sure.
Thanks, mate.
All good, guys. Any more questions?
Just one more from me, Nixie. You've dropped one of your most senior blokes in Dave Mackay this week. He's obviously out of contract at the end of the year. Is there sort of the writing on the wall in terms of his future?
No, he'll play the medical sub, so I'm happy to give you that one. So it's interesting, we have to omit him to put him into that position, which sort of doesn't make sense, but we do that anyway. For Dave, it's a balance, and so it's a similar conversation to what we just had around Tom Lynch. DMAC offers so much to our young group. He's done amazing work with guys like Chase Jones and Will Hamill. He's got some weapons that you don't get unless you played as much footy as he has. So again, that comes about balance when we look at our list going into 2022. What sort of picks we have throughout that draft. We get busy in the trade period. There's a lot of decisions that go on around these decisions of keeping these guys on. But DMAC has been outstanding for our group.
Thanks, mate.
Just maybe one more. How active do you expect to be in the trade period? Nixie, you talk about your list makeup. Is it a list that can go on and have sustained success, or do you feel like you still need to bring in a fair amount of outside guys outside of the draft?
I think, look, we're always looking to improve. We're always looking to get better, and it's great to have an intention to be really active in the trade period, but there needs to be two parties when the trade's involved. And so we've got to find the right balance. We've got to find the right players that will help make our young group, improve and fast track our development. So it's hard for me to answer that one until we actually get to that point where conversations start. There's a fair bit of work. We do a lot of work, pro scouting, looking around the league at what we feel might make us a better side, what might add to our group. And we're balancing that up too with the young group we've got. That we're really confident. We're really pleased with how our young group are developing. These things take a little bit of time, but as I said before, we're doing everything we can to fast track that.